Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Hello and welcome to ForumIAS. Today is 4th September 2023 and these are all the articles that we are going to see today. The first article is about Article 371D. Why is this in news? Because the student community and the teaching fraternity, they are in the fear of losing local quota in educational institutions. Why is this fear coming up now? Because the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, which came into force in May 2014, it is valid only for 10 years. What this particular act does is, it will maintain the rules and regulations that were formulated prior to the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh. That means those rules and regulations that were formed before the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh would remain the same for 10 years from the date of enforcement of Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. As we can see here, it was enacted and it came into force in May 2014, which means whatever provisions that were safeguarded by this act, they will come to end by May 2024. One such provision is the Article 371D, and this article was inserted into the Constitution by the 32nd Amendment Act of 1973. Why this article was inserted? It is to safeguard the rights of local students in education and employment. A kind of local reservation is provided. How is it provided? 85% of seats are reserved for the local students. So various regions of undivided Andhra Pradesh, they were divided into sub-regions. For example, the Telangana region was known as the Osmania University region. The districts from Srikakulam to Prakasam, they were known as Andhra University region. Rayalaseema and Nellore districts were tagged under Sri Venkateshwara University region. After categorizing different areas into different sub-regions, each respective region student will have 85% reservation in their particular region. So this is to provide equitable opportunities for people belonging to different parts of the state. It is to ensure that any kind of initiative, education is not going to only one particular region and the development is more equitably distributed. Similarly, there is also local reservation for recruitment, direct recruitment to posts in local cadre. This means Group C and Group D posts, which are reserved for local people. Similarly, any cadre post in any local authority within the state. So, even though there is local reservation, they are for Group C, Group D posts or posts in the local authority. But this is coming to an end because the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act will come to an end in May 2024. So the state government of Andhra Pradesh is planning for another move to retain this particular provision in order to benefit the students. The second article is about Global Hunger Index. Why is this in news? Because though India is a major food producer with extensive food security schemes, we have the Public Distribution Scheme, National Food Security Act. Despite having all these provisions, there is extensive food insecurity, hunger and child malnutrition. And this is proven by abysmal rank of India in the Global Hunger Index. India was ranked 107 among 121 countries, even behind Nigeria and Pakistan. So this Global Hunger Index, it is a composite measurement. It tracks undernourishment and hunger across 3 dimensions. What are those? Calorie undernourishment. Say for example, a healthy adult requires 2000 calories per day. How many people are able to meet the calorific demand? How many people are not able to meet this demand? They are undernourished. Child malnutrition, under 5 mortality. So these 3 provisions, that is calorie undernourishment, child malnutrition and under 5 mortality. These 3 dimensions are used to calculate the global hunger index for each countries and they are ranked accordingly. Now, there is a concept called the state hunger index. What is it? So, that is to leverage subnational data, that means regional data, and this subnational data will encompass these 3 dimensions of global hunger index. So, we are using the subnational data to substitute it into the global hunger index formula, and we are developing a India-specific hunger index at the level of states and union territories. So, this global hunger index, it basically ranks different countries, and India-specific index will rank different union territories and the states. So, this is very important because the extent of undernourishment at a more localized scale we can know, and accordingly we can formulate policies so that we can achieve the sustainable development goals of eradicating hunger and malnutrition. So in India, we are going to tweak this global hunger index a little bit. Okay, so there are 4 indicators. Earlier we saw that there were 3 indicators. Now in India, this is slightly tweaked to have 4 indicators. That is prevalence of calorie undernourishment, stunting, wasting, mortality among children below the age of 5, which is the under 5 mortality. Under 5 mortality. So this stunting and wasting, what are those? Stunting is low height for a particular weight and age. Wasting is low weight for a particular height and age. So this stunting and wasting are calculated among children only. Okay, so these 4 indicators are used in India, that is calorie undernourishment 1, stunting, wasting, under 5 mortality. But for calorie undernourishment, what we do is we are using the body mass index undernourishment among the working age population because we don't have the calorie undernourishment data. Okay, for the other indicators, so instead of this calorie undernourishment, BMI data is being used. For these other data, the data from National Family Health Survey version 5 is used. So that is mentioned here. So first we saw what is the parameter used in the global hunger index, and then we are seeing how that particular index is adapted for India and where is the data coming from. After substituting data into this formula, we will get a score, and that score will range from 0 and 100. 100 means more hunger. 0 hunger is indicated by a 0 score. So if the score of a particular state is below 10, then it is low hunger. If the score is between 10 to 20, then it is moderate hunger. If it is 20 to 30 score, then it is serious hunger. 30 to 40 score, alarming hunger. 50 or above is extremely alarming case of hunger. So now we understood how the global hunger index is adapted for India in terms of state hunger index, and where the data is obtained from, how the data is substituted, and what is the score, and based on the score, how are we going to classify different states. So in this state hunger index, Bihar, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, these three states, they scored 35. So they come under the alarming hunger category. Then Gujarat, UP, Assam, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Tripura, Maharashtra, West Bengal, they all scored above the national average. The national average score was 29. So these states, Gujarat, UP, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, etc., they scored above 29. Even though they scored above 29, that indicates the hunger in these states is more than the average national hunger. And that is also a very bad situation. So much so that these states, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, West Bengal, they are performing worse than some African nations like Haiti, Niger, Liberia, Sierra Leone. So we can understand by perspective how serious is the hunger issue in India. But there is also a promising picture with respect to some UTs and states, that is Chandigarh scored 12, which is a very good score because low score indicates low hunger. Sikkim, Puducherry, Kerala, they all scored below 16. These states, that is Chandigarh, Sikkim, Puducherry, Kerala, along with northeastern states like Manipur, Mizoram, then we have Arunachal Pradesh, UTs like Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Delhi, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, they fall under moderate hunger category. So there is no state which falls under the low hunger category, which means no state has received a score less than 10. Now, India's global hunger index performance also has been declining. That means hunger is worsening because of the increasing prevalence of calorie undernourishment. Children, they are also performing better because of schemes like Integrated Child Development Scheme. But this part, that is the calorie undernourishment, is huge in India. So there are a number of people, a large number of people who have very low calorie consumption per day. Because of that, India's global hunger index score has been declined. Also, in the national sample survey round, in this particular national sample survey, the prevalence of calorie undernourishment is not even measured. So first of all, we should start measuring that. Then only we can aim to improve that score and perform well in the global hunger index. Even in terms of child wasting, India is performing worse than many low-income African nations. 1/3 of children under the age of 5 are stunted and underweight, while every 5th child suffers from wasting. This is the abysmal situation of India, and this needs serious attention. And the aim of this particular opinion piece is to highlight how worse the hunger situation is in India. The next article is an interesting article about the Right to Information Act. This is very important for the upcoming mains. In any mains you are going to write, this is very important. Why this RTI is repeatedly in news? RTI, that is the Right to Information Act, it first came into force in 2005. So this particular act helps citizens obtain information and data from central and state institutions. So these data, they are not readily available in public domain. Using the provisions of this act, citizens can obtain the data which are not readily available in the public domain. So it allows any citizen to make requests to access to data, documents and other information. So India's RTI Act is given as a global example because it is the most comprehensive public records access legislation in the world. However, in recent years, there are some problems which are cropping up with respect to RTI Act. That is the dilution of the Act, the improper implementation of the Act. These are all some concerns about the RTI Act. So, this RTI Act, it allows the personal data to be disclosed. That is, what is this personal data? Personal data is the data of private citizens. So, this personal data is not generally disclosed by the government. However, according to the RTI Act, there is one exception. That is, if there is an overriding public interest, then personal data can be disclosed by the government through the RTI Act. However, the new Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, it amended this provision of RTI Act to say that any private data or any personal data of a private citizen cannot be disclosed under any circumstances. So what is the implication of this? The implication is that it would make social audits in ration distribution impossible to carry out. What is that social audit? Social audit is when a community member gets a list of ration beneficiaries through an RTI request. So there will be a list that will be provided. So in this particular ward, there are these many members and this member got 10 kg rice. This member got 5 kg sugar. So this is the public record. But within that public record, there is personal information of a private citizen also. Once a community member gets access to this record, they will go and verify with the individual person to ensure whether this data that is given by government is correct or not. Whether according to this data, this person actually received 10 kg of rice, that is verification. That is social audit. But because of the new amendment, no personal data can be disclosed. So, social audit cannot be carried out. So, this creates opacity in the system. Also, this provision can be exploited by powerful public officials. They'll say that this is a personal data and it can't be enclosed. So, corruptions will not come into the light if this particular provision is exploited. Also, there was one more amendment to RTI Act in 2019 that gave union government, that is the central government, unilateral power in deciding how long information commissioners can have their salaries. That is how long they can serve. What is their salary? So the State Information Commissioner, Central Information Commissioner, their salary, their term of office will be decided by the central government. So this is creating a kind of interference in the office of Chief Information Commissioner. This Chief Information Commissioner is important because he only reviews the appeals. Generally what happened, you or I, we can file RTI by paying just 10 rupees. Okay, and the government department will give a reply. If we are not satisfied, we can go for first appeal. Even that appeal is unsatisfactory, then this escalates to the State Information Commissioner. Even there the response is unsatisfactory, it escalates to Chief Information Commissioner. So effectively these information commissioners, they keep the government accountable. If government is only deciding the salary of these officers, if the government is only deciding the term of these officers, there is a possibility of government controlling these officers. Because of that, these officers, they cannot act without any bias. So there should be security of tenure. security of payment for these officers. So that is also one more criticism. Also, any act, whether it is RTA Act, any other act, it is implemented through the rules that are made by the government and the state government. Say for example, what is the payment method used to pay this 10 rupees is left to the discretion of states. So what happens, some states do not allow post office checks payment, which is a very easy method of payment, right? So this way there are some procedural bottlenecks that prevent a person from filing a RTA demand itself, okay? And also delayed appointments to information commissioners. That is also creating a vacuum in the system because they only hear the appeals. If there is no one to hear the appeals, who will hold the government accountable? That is also one more criticism. And even in online RTIs, many states don't have an online RTI portal. But in case of union government, they have an RTI portal, but the process of filing an RTI request is becoming harder and harder. So this is creating again procedural bottlenecks for the citizens to access, to make use of this RTI Act. And even if they file, braving all these circumstances, they are not giving proper replies to these RTI queries. So because the citizen is unsatisfied, more and more first appeals are being filed. So this shows the abysmal state of implementation of RTI. RTI is not implemented effectively, which has to change. So that is highlighted by this article. Moving on to the next article. It is about the hot topic that is spoken these days, that is the One Nation, One Election. Why this is in news? Because the central government set up a panel headed by former President Ramnath Kovind to explore the feasibility of One Nation, One Election. What is this One Nation, One Election? It means synchronizing the timing of Lok Sabha and State Assembly elections so that these Lok Sabha polls and State Assembly polls of all the states can be held together. So now what happens? There is Lok Sabha election, and after every year 5 states or 6 states go for election every year. Okay, because different states have the 5-year tenure of their state legislative assembly getting over at different points in time. So different states go into election mode almost every year. So in order to prevent this, we can conduct all the elections clubbed together. That is the One Nation, One Election plan. Actually, when the constitution came into force, the first general election and the election for all the states, they were held simultaneously only during the period 1951-52. And this was the same condition for almost 15 years. Every time the Lok Sabha election was held, the state elections were also held. This was the situation until 1967 because the central government dissolved the then Kerala government. So the Kerala government, the state of Kerala, they had to go into election earlier than their term because the Kerala government was dissolved. Similarly, there were many circumstances wherein different state governments fell because they couldn't prove their majority. Different state governments were dissolved by the central government. So now what has happened is different states have their state legislative assembly election in different times. They are not held together with the Lok Sabha election. Instead of this, the plan is to conduct all the elections in one single time. What do the different reports talk about the One Nation, One Election plan? Actually, the Law Commission report states that the Constitution, the Representation of People's Act 1951, Rules of Procedure of Lok Sabha, Rules of Procedure of State Assemblies, they all require appropriate amendments. The Law Commission also said that if you are amending the Constitution to enable One Nation, One Election, the government has to receive the ratification from at least 50% of the states. This was the recommendation given by the Law Commission. Why this particular scheme is proposed? Because if the elections are held simultaneously, it will save a lot of public money. It will reduce the strain on the administrative setup and security forces, because every time an election is held, the central security forces go there for security reasons to enable smoother conduct of elections. Even district collectors, they indulge in election related activities rather than administrative activities. Then timely implementation of government policies, because whenever there is election, the model code of conduct comes into picture. Model code of conduct. This model code of conduct MCC, it comes into picture. When the model code of conduct is in force, the state government cannot announce new populist programs, right? So because of that, government policies are not implemented timely because the MCC is in force. And the administrative focus is also on electioneering. Like I said already, the collectors, different officers, the tahsildars, they all indulge in electioneering. They become election officers rather than carrying out developmental activities. Because of these reasons, the One Nation, One Election is proposed. But of course, it has some downsides. What will happen if a state government or the central government, they collapse mid-tenure? What will happen in that case? Would elections be held again for all the states and center? Or will the president's rule be imposed on the states? What will happen in that case? That is one concern. Another one is, if we are talking about one nation, one election, this term one, it is in contradiction with Article 1 of Constitution. It envisages a union of states. So states have as much importance in this union. If we are going for one nation, one election, the states become non-entities. The importance of state reduces. That is also one of the reasons why one nation, one election is opposed. Also, this recurrent elections, it is beneficial in democracy, because the people, they can make sure that their voices are heard more frequently. If the election is happening only once in 5 years, they have to wait for 5 years to sound their opinion. But if the election is happening, say the state election happens in 2023 and the Lok Sabha election again happens in 2024, so there is scope for the people to voice out their opinion, voice out their voice periodically. Okay, and the state election issues and the central election issues, they are different. So what happens is, if the state election and the central election are conducted separately, these issues, they don't bleed into each other. They are considered separately by the electorate, by the people. So the present framework prevents bleeding or blending of issues, ensuring greater accountability. So if the central government's Lok Sabha election and the state legislative assembly election are held together, a national party can ride on their popularity and they can also win in a state election. So what is happening is, there is no greater accountability, because even the state election was fought on national issues rather than the state issues. State election, if they are fought on state issues only, the state's well-being will be ensured. So that is also a opposing point for conducting one nation, one election. Through this article, we saw the pros and cons of one nation, one election. Final article of the day is about the Diksha platform of the Education Ministry. So what is happening is, the National E-Governance Division of the Ministry of Electronics Information Technology, MEIT. So the National E-Governance Division is coming under the MEIT. What they are going to do is, they are going to integrate personalized adaptive learning into the Diksha platforms. So they are going to integrate personalized adaptive learning into the Diksha platform. What is this Diksha platform? This Diksha platform is a platform that is coming under the Education Ministry. So this platform, it provides e-content for schools by an online portal and a mobile application. This portal contains NCERT textbooks, state board textbooks. It has 2.43 lakh contributions by 11,000 odd academics in terms of videos, explainers, practice questions. All these content are hosted in the Diksha platform. So now the plan is to integrate the personalized adaptive learning into the Diksha platform. If this integration is happening, then each student will have individualized learning experience. For example, a student is solving a Pythagoras theorem problem and they are making mistake in calculation. So then what will this Diksha platform do is, it will show a video on how to do basic calculation. So if the person is fast learner, the Diksha platform will act accordingly. If he is a slow learner, the Diksha platform will act accordingly. That is what we say when we say that each student will have individualized learning experience. So for this, it is a time-consuming process to integrate this personalized adaptive learning with the Diksha platform, because we have to create something called as learning loops. That is, different content has to be tagged. Okay, mathematics, science, social science, like that, different content will be tagged. Okay, once they are going through that content, if they are facing any difficulty, a supportive material offering an explanation related to that tag can be shown. Only if the tagging is happening, then only the personalized adaptive learning. If it is tagged as mathematics, Pythagoras theorem problem is categorized, and if he is facing problem in calculation, again some other video tagged this mathematics which teaches him calculation will show up. So this kind of tagging must be first made in order to enable creation of learning loops, which means if there is any difficulty, it will direct to other material. Again, once this is completed, it will come back to the source material. This is a learning loop. For that to be created, first there has to be tags. You might have seen this tag symbol in your Gmail. You might see this tag symbol in your price tag in various articles you purchase. That is the simple tag. And by tagging, we can create this learning loop for effective learning. That's it for this article. We'll see some previous year question. In which of the following relief sculpture inscriptions is Ranyo Ashokan, King Ashoka, mentioned along with stone portrait of Ashoka? This is a factual question. Either you know the answer or you don't know the answer. The answer for this question is Kanganahalli, A. So this Kanganahalli is located in Karnataka. Second question, which are all the features of Mahayana Buddhism? Deification of Buddha, that means Buddha is considered as God rather than a teacher. Treading the path of Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are the gurus in the Mahayana Buddhism who show the path, who show the way for the lay followers. Image worship and rituals using flowers, agarbatti, etc. These are all the features of Mahayana Buddhism. So the answer is all the above, that is 1, 2 and 3, D. That's it for today's discussion. Follow us on all these social media platforms. This is Indumati signing off. Thank you and all the best.